One. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for another live neuro coaching call. We are going to start right off with Nathan tonight, and I'm going to go ahead and let him take the stage. If anyone has any questions, just please put them into the messenger in Facebook or YouTube. I'm going to be copying and pasting those questions and delivering them over to Nathan. And please, if you need any information from Nathan, you can put them in those questions as well. And Nathan's also going to give you all the contact information you'll need to reach out to us if you have any questions or interested in joining one of our programs. Thank you, Nathan, and you have the stage.
Thanks, Lance. Appreciate it. So my name's Nathan Bidoff. I'm a neuro skills coach. And just so you know, I do work with a lot of amateur players, but I also work with, MLB, NFL, NHL players. And so this works at a high elite level, but it also works for 9 and 10-year-olds. So this works for everyone. I'm going to share my screen, show you what we're talking about with neuro. So hopefully you can see this. That's Steph Curry doing some neuro, right? So Steph Curry's been doing neuro 12 years. This is what it looks like when he's doing neuro. Doesn't look like, everyone thinks neuro is about, confidence and self-talk and looking in the mirror and talking to yourself, but that's not what neuro is about. Neuro is about doing drills that make you fast, make you process things, makes you recognize patterns on the court or on the field or on the ice, right? Like you get really fast. So Steph Curry obviously trains hard. He's been training this hard for 12 years. I mean, look at him. He's missing passes from his coach. When's the last time you saw Steph Curry miss passes in games, right? He doesn't. Why? Because he trains harder with his neuro coach than the games are, right? And so when he plays a game, it's just easy, right? And so that's what we're looking for. Here's my website. You look at, pro players talking about this stuff. There's a hockey player who led the NHL in 4 different categories after doing this. I'm just going to go here, and instead of pressing play and just sharing my presentation, I'm going to walk you through it right now live. So I'm going to mute my video self, and here we are. So what are neuro skills? Things like this, but there are 30 or 40 more I could just tell you, but these are the main ones that everyone wants. And so I'm going to talk about the main ones here. Okay. So the main thing that everyone wants with neuro skills is the faster processing speed. What does that do for you? First of all, it makes everything else go like it's in slow motion. Imagine playing a game like everything's in slow motion and you have all the time in the world to decide what you want to do, right? Also, faster processing speed equals faster velocity. I'm not saying that driveline doesn't work and some other, going to the gym does, it's nice to have some muscles, but you can only get limited results with driveline, right? You can get a mile an hour or two doing the driveline process. But with neuro, when your brain is faster and it speeds up, your body speeds up as fast as your brain is processing things. So I've had grown men done with college, pro baseball players, one guy in the San Diego Padres organization who upped his velo 7 miles an hour. Again, no change in physical program, just doing neuro, right? 7 miles an hour in the 90s. I have a lot of guys that throw over 100 miles an hour. The faster processing speed really is a thing with neuro, okay? Pattern recognition. So pattern recognition is probably the biggest competitive advantage. It doesn't sound as amazing as processing speed, but it might be even more amazing. What this is you're recognizing the patterns in your subconscious mind explosively, right? So if I'm at the plate, I just recognize that ball coming out of the pitcher's hand and I just recognize that pattern and boom, I hit that ball, right? If I'm a quarterback, I just recognize all the plays happening on the field. I know exactly where I need to throw it to, right? So the pattern recognition is just huge. And even if I'm a pitcher, I recognize the patterns and the sequences I need to get these hitters out, right? And the locations I need to go to. And I recognize their patterns and their tendencies and what they sit on and their weaknesses, and I exploit those. Pattern recognition, Harvard Business Review calls it the greatest competitive advantage that can be developed. That's pattern recognition, okay? It's gonna change your game so much. And so what do you think if everything's in slow motion and you're recognizing all the patterns explosively, do you think you'll have better decision making? Absolutely. Like we're talking split second decision making. You will make better decisions on the court or in the field. And your attention. So we saw Steph Curry working on this. He's working on attention skills. So he's locked in. So think back at that video. I can just show you the video again. Let's see. So what's he doing here? He is multitasking. So that's an attention skill. He is partially blinding himself. That's spatial reasoning. So not only does he have to focus more, but he also has to recognize movement in space because he can hardly see what's going on. That's a neuro skill. Spatial reasoning, body awareness, right? All this is neuro stuff. So you're going to have, it's like you become a sponge and you just pick up everything. Imagine if you're a coach, imagine if all your players are sponges and all of a sudden everything you're giving them, they are able to pick up very quickly. That's what happens with the people I work with. Okay. So again, there's so much more. Just a few more. Sequencing is a neuro skill. Every pitcher should be good at sequencing, including quarterbacks should be good at sequencing, right? Impulse control is a neuro skill. So not swinging out a bad pitch, that's a neuro skill. So these are all neuro skills. Everyone should have a neuro skill coach on their staff, but they don't because this is new. Why do we not know so much about neuro? Let me give you a little history and then I think you will know. Okay, so here we go. This is why. Babe Ruth, they took it, Babe Ruth, they proved it in a lab over 100 years ago that the reason he was the best baseball player of all time. So I have guys, yeah, cool. I just did another presentation. A bunch of people are telling me they're in. So that's good news. So anyway, here we go. So by the way, let me just stop right there. I can present to your team and we can get a bunch of people through the Area Scouts platform. We can get a bunch of people doing this and getting better and get your whole team to get better fast and win a championship, right? Like this is what it's about, right? So let me just get back to the presentation. We'll talk more about that at the end. So Babe Ruth, his career WAR is 183.1, right? That's the highest by far of all time, right? No one in Major League Baseball, I don't think anyone is at 100. I know Albert Pujols, he just retired. He retired with about 100. So he was about 83 less than Babe Ruth. Mike Trout's is around 83. So he's got 100 more to go. He'll never catch up. He'll never catch up to Babe Ruth. He's by far the greatest. Why am I saying all this? Because they proved it over 100 years ago. Over 100 years ago that it was neuro. So as you can see right here in this article, results showed that his muscles responded to the eye and brain impulse more than 1/10 quicker than do those of the average person. So his processing speed is 1/10 quicker than the rest of us. What does that do? Makes the ball look like it's coming in slow motion. Boom, right? It also means his bat speed was elite and his velo must have been elite too, right? So his first 3 full pitching seasons of 200 innings or more were averaged 22 wins and a 2.07 ERA. So if you're thinking, well, Babe Ruth might be the best hitter of all time, guess what? He could have been the best pitcher of all time too. If he stayed a pitcher, he probably would have had the best stats of all time. Instead, he's like, I'll be the best hitter of all time. So not only, well, let me just tell you, his processing speed was elite. His visual perceptual skills were elite. They were 150% faster than a normal man. His visual motor skills were at the 98.8, it only goes to 99. So he's at the top of everything. And these scientists are blown away and they're like, it's neuro. So they knew this over 100 years ago, that the reason Babe Ruth was so good is because his neuro skills were off the charts. It wasn't because he was out of shape, right? That's not the reason he was the greatest player of all time, right? It takes a brain. And so they knew it. And they even said, we just need to find better, people born with better neuro skills so we can have better baseball players. But what they didn't know that we know now, past 20 years, they have proven that you can build your neuro skills. It's called neuroplasticity. You can actually speed up your processing speed. Your visual motor skills can get better, right? Your visual perceptual skills can get better. All the things that made Babe Ruth so good. I need to silence my phone. I'm getting a lot of texts. Okay. So anyway, so what does that mean? The greatest player of all time, it was his neuro skills. And you look at the greatest player in every sport, neuro skills. Again, Wayne Gretzky created his own pattern recognition drills, right? And what does he have in common with Babe Ruth? I couldn't beat people with my strength. I don't have a hard shot. I'm not the quickest skater in the league. My eyes and my mind have to do most of the work. So when you say your eyes and your mind, you're talking about your neuro skills, right? Again, what does he have in common with Babe Ruth? It's not that he's gifted physically. He was always the smallest guy on the ice. They called him the runt of his team, right? Gretzky, the greatest scorer of all time, he knew the patterns on the ice. So everyone else is following that puck around. Gretzky just shows up to where the puck is going to be because he knows, based on the defense, based on where the puck is, where that puck is going to show up. It would just show up and he would tap it in because he didn't have a hard shot. And that's exactly how he became the greatest player of all time. So Gretzky, smallest guy, Babe Ruth, out of shape. Do any of these guys have anything on you physically? No, of course. Like it's not like, you think about, not everyone, even if you're like 5'5", right? Altuve, he was MVP, right? Seriously, it's like, it's not the physical. Yeah, you need some muscles. Yeah, you need to go to the gym every now and then. You don't want to burn out in the gym, but what you really want is you want to beef up the brain, and that's what produces the elite guys. So people say, well, what about Michael Jordan? He's the greatest and he's just physically gifted. Well, what you don't know about Michael Jordan is that he did neuro at the peak of his career. So yeah, he was physically gifted, but he got better. And ESPN even shows you here, he got better. The game seemed to slow down. Again, the processing speed goes up. Everything else goes in slow motion. Also, his physical abilities got faster. You watch Jordan when he's a rookie, and then you watch him at the peak of his career when he's winning all those championships. He actually got faster on the court. He also picked up on visual cues he wasn't seeing before. Saw that pattern recognition, right? So all these things that you want neurologically made him better. For reasons he couldn't quite explain, it was making him better. So Michael Jordan became the GOAT doing neuro, okay? So what about Tom Brady, greatest NFL quarterback of all time? Well, first half of his career was pretty good, but it's not greatest of all time numbers. In fact, the first half of Kirk Cousins' career has been better than Tom Brady's. I'm not saying Kirk Cousins isn't pretty good, but he's, people don't consider him even in the conversation, right? But Tom Brady's was worse than that, his first half of his career. Pretty good numbers, though. But then he started doing neuro at the age of 34, 11 straight years of neuro, right? His quarterback rating went way up. His passing yards per season. Look at the passing yards per season, how much it went up, right? That's neuro. He says brain training is like physical conditioning. It can help anyone, right? Do you have a body and does the gym help you? Yes. Do you have a brain? Does working out your brain help you? Come on, people. It's the brain. That's why he's the best. That's why Babe Ruth was the best. That's why Michael Jordan was the best. That's why Wayne Gretzky was the best. Now, I think the craziest stats of all are Steph Curry. So Steph Curry's not going to end up being the GOAT. Why? Because Michael Jordan was an all-star, and then he did neuro, and he became the GOAT. Steph Curry was an average player. He was never an all-star, never a household name. He was averaging under 15 points a game. You guys know this? Steph Curry was a lot like his brother. His brother's in the NBA. These are his brother's stats, right? Steph Curry became Steph Curry after he did neuro, right? These aren't his rookie stats either, right? Like this is 3 straight seasons of around 15 points a game. So then he separates himself. After 1 year of neuro, he's up to almost 23 points a game. He's an all-star after this every year, unless he's injured. And then after 4 years of neuro, he's up to over 30 points a game, multiple MVPs, multiple championships. I mean, he's Steph Curry, the Steph Curry we all know. Think of your brain going to the gym, right? Think of your brain like Arnold Schwarzenegger, okay? Right? How's Arnold Schwarzenegger going to look when he's 15 years old and he starts working out after 1 year, right? When he's 16, he probably looked okay, he got some more muscles, but he didn't look like the Arnold Schwarzenegger we're all thinking about right here. It's 12 years later that he's Mr. Olympia. He looks like that. Steph Curry has the Mr. Olympia brain. He's been working his brain on neuro for 12 years. His brain is beefed. He runs circles around everyone on the court. He looks like the greatest of all time, but he won't catch up to Michael Jordan's numbers. Why? Because Michael Jordan started as an all-star and became a GOAT. Steph Curry started average. He's got a long ways to go. I'm not saying he could never do it, but I'm just saying, this is pretty amazing going from here to here. That's over doubling his points per game, right? That's like over doubling your home runs and doubling your OPS and cutting your ERA in half. But all this stuff is possible. Okay, so I'm going to show you how possible it really is. So here we're going to look at this, because this is where I come into the picture. And I heard about Steph doing neuro, and I'm like, well, what's he doing? And it's a lot of virtual reality and a lot of electronic stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. That's not going to work for a lot of sports. It's not going to work for baseball. Why would that not work? So with virtual reality, you're damaging your eyes, eye strain, blurred distance vision, right? So that's not going to work for a hitter. It's not going to work for a fielder. Now it's interesting, right? Steph Curry wears glasses now, right? Because he's been doing all this electronic stuff. My program is electronic free. It does not hurt your eyes. Now, interestingly, almost every sport benefits when they do my program. I started this thinking, well, I'll do a program that's going to not damage your eyes, but it actually ended up being one of the best neuro programs. And that's why I've broken into the NFL and the NHL and all these other leagues, because this flat out works. And I'll show you why. I've had a lot of very intelligent family members cross-check this and add stuff to the program and make sure that this program really works. So my background is, I was a neuro program director. I was doing individualized programs for people. And my first job in the neuro world was back in 2002. Okay. So I've been doing this stuff, and then I just developed a program and it worked. So I did work with a few high school players first, about 3 or 4 maybe. And then I moved on to college players. One of the first college players I worked with was National Player of the Year, right? Nick Gonzalez. So you guys remember when Nick Gonzalez hit 5 home runs in one day? He just went off. That was working with me. That's doing this neuro program. And does it still work? Yes. I've had a college baseball player this year hit 5 home runs in one day. One of my guys, right? So yeah, next time you hear about someone hitting 5 home runs in one day, just see if he's my client. Okay, but just here we're going to listen to Nick Gonzalez talk about what it does for Player of the Year.
Yeah, I think neuro is something that everyone should implement, especially moving forward with the way the game's going and everything. With the neuro, I felt really locked in. And at the plate, I felt locked in. I felt real calm and cool. It went really smooth, and I just felt like I was getting better every single day. So I think.
All right, so he's just going to keep talking. What I wanted to show you is stats. Before neuro, he was a 400 hitter, hit a lot of base hits, not a lot of power. So a lot of singles, and that's how he had a nice high OPS, right? But then after neuro, these are video game numbers. Like, this is the highest OPS in baseball history right here. So how do you get a 1765 OPS? Well, first, you beef up your average exit velo with the processing speed. So his bat is over 5 miles an hour faster all the time. So balls that used to be just flyouts are turning into home runs. How would that be? Right? We're talking a lot of stuff. I also have a barrel drills to the point where neurologically this bat, and I'm going to show you in a little bit, you should never jam the ball again after doing this, because you actually neurologically, the bat's an extension of your body. And so I teach you how to always hit with the barrel. And sounds like a no-brainer. Just hit with the barrel. But really, you need to do drills so you understand how to hit with the barrel. So he's barreling everything. He's swinging faster. Everything's, a monster home run. Okay. And so what happened? He was National Player of the Year and a first-round draft pick. So this is actually something that's really interesting about my program. I didn't know people. It's not like I was like, hey, I have all these buddies in Major League Baseball and I'll have them all just do my program. And that's how I broke in. I didn't know anyone, right? I didn't even know Nick. I didn't know any baseball players. I just had a program that flat out worked. And so when people hit or pitched really well, this same year when he was he led the NCAA in 5 different categories. And the most important category for a pitcher, which is ERA, was another one of my clients. He didn't give up a single earned run. And so it just spread, right? College coaches are giving me numbers to their minor league players. Minor league players are reaching the big leagues. Then one of the minor leaguers that reached the big leagues, he told Josh Bell, he told Jameson Tyone. I mean, now all these guys are telling each other. So here's Josh Bell talking about Neuro, what it does for him.
Start Josh Bell.
Yeah, I'm all in with it. I love it for sure, and I can't wait for this next round. It's only a matter of time before, more and more people are believers.
Josh has used this Neuro program to up his numbers quite a bit. So here he's going to explain what Neuro does for him.
So it takes like what you're already good at, and it makes you that much better. But the things that you're not good at all, it's like, man, I'm above average for the rest of the first baseman. So that's more than what I could ask for. Having that like reassurance is like, yeah, this works. Yeah, keep what you're doing. So let me like at least put all that I can into the game while I can. Because whenever I'm done, hopefully it's like, oh, I did Neuro for the last 10 years and I finished stronger than I started. We can win. I can be really good. I could like play the game that I always wanted to play. I can be better than what I felt like when I was a kid. And that's the only way to play. So let's do it, Let's do it.
So people ask me all the time, like, Josh Bell, well, didn't he struggle in the playoffs? Well, here's the thing. He actually did well in the playoffs, but people are forgetting that he had one of the biggest first halves last year. So before Neuro, this was his OPS. After Neuro, the year right after, obviously it went up. But then the year after that, he continued to work with me, which was last year. He won a Silver Slugger. I mean, so you can't argue with winning a Silver Slugger. He keeps getting better, okay? Jameson Tyone, right after working with me, he was American League Pitcher of the Month for July, and then he battled with some injuries. But then the next year, he just had arguably the best season of his career because his WHIP was the lowest of his career. And so that helped him sign a $68 million contract with the Chicago Cubs. So obviously it works. So and just so you know, it's not just baseball, guys. Here's hockey, right? This guy's a 3rd string goalie in the NHL. And I mentioned this briefly, but yeah, he was 3rd string, only got in a handful of games for 3 straight seasons. And then he does this all off season. He comes back in, he wins the starting job. He leads the NHL in 4 different categories, and he becomes a finalist for the Calder Trophy. So obviously the most important category, which is the save percentage, he went, I mean, look at that jump, crazy. So, and then he talks about, how it helped.
Last year, obviously, I had great number. Like individually, it was a pretty successful year. So, I think a lot of it has to do with doing Neuro. We had worked on it a lot of the summer and a lot of the off season, and for me to mentally be able to process it all just by doing a few of those Neuro drills, like it changed the way that I was able to make saves. Now it's about trying to be consistent and continue doing my drills and my Neuro exercises and all that. So like that expectation of like being great and playing at a high level is like every single day.
Okay. Obviously that's what you want. You want that consistency. So I started working after, working with some of the best athletes in the world, started working with actors, executives. This is a president of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, business owners. I'm just, it's all sorts of people, students. Just so you know, there's great side effects of Neuro too. no negative side effects. We're talking about like GPAs going up, mental health benefits, right? Attentions and neuro skills. So people that used to struggle with ADHD aren't struggling anymore. I've had a lot of people get off meds. I don't advertise that because if I did, the FDA will be all over me, but it's true. People getting off meds and getting over like depression or anxiety or whatever, right? I'm not saying those things aren't real, right? There's clinical depression, but if people are just generally depressed and they're not clinically depressed, it really helps because Neuro your brain controls everything you do, right? And so all these great benefits, like I said, the GPAs go up a ton. Life skills, leadership skills, just relationships, getting better, all sorts of things. So let's see. People want to see this because they're like, all you're showing me are pro athletes. Does this really work for the younger kids? I'm going to have a video soon of like 9 and 10-year-olds, but as of right now, I've got some high school people talking about it. Yes, it works for 9-year-olds. It works for high schoolers, works for all ages. But here's some high schoolers talking about what it does.
Struggled with that and the season to take off those 2 weeks, I would have batted like 520 or so.
So the 100 was before you worked with me.
Gradually, I started getting better and better. Because like those, once I got to like week 5, week 6, I started hitting better.
You might be good at a skill now, but doing neuro helps you get even better, make it a superpower. And neuro just helps you get on a different level than other people.
I'm excited, dude. I don't really like, I know you probably saw this coming because you've been doing this, but in my mind, I was a little bit like, it's probably going to help, but is it going to help that much? But now I'm playing it. It's like every day I'm coming back from practice and I'm telling them, I'm like, my parents, I'm like, guys, I don't know what's going on. Like I'm playing out of my mind right now, everything.
Instead of just going over 3 every game, I started going 1 for 3, 1 for 4, getting a couple hits, Next day I go 2 for 3, next day 2 for 3, next day 3 for 3. Very consistent, good results from the neuro.
It helped with my consistency, but I think the most important thing was my confidence while I was skating. I was able to control my nerves for the first time, like in my life, and I worked on that and breathing exercises and all these other things. But I think just somehow with neuro, I was able to control that and just like allow myself to kind of like let go. When I go out 12 weeks later and compete at Broadmoor and skate like a clean program for the first time in my life without even like thinking twice about it, I definitely realized that like neuro was like the main thing that contributed to that.
It helps out my game so much more because it's taking away turnovers, not turning the ball over because I know what I'm doing. I'm processing everything. I'm being calm with the ball, but at the same time, I'm making the right reads. My mind's processing way more information. And in reality, I'm going even faster than I was before. I block out all the kind of like hands in your face and all the other things that are like affected your shot before. I kind of don't even see them anymore. It's kind of just me in the rim.
Now my shot is so much better than what it was before because I was able to really like go into detail about my shot because I like knew the patterns of the game better. Defensively, I was able to see the play before it happened, and so I could get myself in the position to get the steal or to get the rebound.
One, you just have better eye-hand coordination, along with just being able to pick up patterns and understand the game a little bit more. Along with patterns, not only as a pitcher, but as a hitter, I'm able to use it in both ways. As a former catcher, knowing what I want to call or what is most probable in that count, what is most likely supposed to happen, and just being able to understand what's part of the game, the processing speed. Since I started neuro, it helped me go from 74 miles per hour to 88 miles per hour as a senior in high school.
You just said 74 to 88 miles an hour. That's a 14 mile an hour velo jump.
I was able to process everything faster and like understand everything better. I look at him and like through a couple pitches and seeing like how he adapts and adjusts to certain pitches, and I can pitch to what is like he's like. If my pitcher hits his spots, I would say I had one of my friends. His ERA was a sub-2 most of the year because he was able to hit all the spots that I wanted him to hit.
I always go back to patterns because that's the biggest thing I use. But just paying attention to the little details. Somebody does something different, a hitter gets in the box different, I pick up on those things very quick as a pitcher. I don't think I ever did that beforehand. So, again, it's you're picking up those little cues, little things hitters are doing, little things the umpire is doing, different drills we've done made me have better spatial awareness. I found that to be very key recently. Make you a better athlete, not even just in the baseball world, but better in general. Me personally, I wish I could have done it early. And starting in high school is going to make it where you can get a habit with it, make it where once you get to a level of being Division I or Oregon State, or like where I'm at, or professional, it's going to be a part of your routine, part of your habit that you just naturally do. So before now, I was probably 80, anywhere from 86 to 90. Last year, I was at home and I was sitting 96 to 97.
Yeah. So he went up 7, but that's not the one I was talking about, because he's still a growing boy. He started as a senior in high school, and he started before his senior year, but he went through a whole year, but he was already kind of grown. Anyway, yeah, the 14 miles an hour, that's a kid that's growing too. So, I mean, some of it's narrow, some of it's just him getting bigger. But just the fact that a grown man can up 7 miles an hour, it's a big deal. All right, guys, I'm going to show you. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff I could show you. I could show you all the guys that made their MLB debuts just this past season, right? I mean, look at Zay. He got into the big leagues in a year and a half from college, right? And that doesn't happen that quickly unless you're like Bryce Harper, right? And he wasn't even a high round draft pick. So, I mean, these guys were little league teammates. And they both made the big leagues. But anyway, what I want to show you is a few drills. Actually, I can't just not talk about this. I'm sorry. This is just too good. So this is so important because Garrett was in season. This is so important. So just, everyone thinks, oh, okay, well, maybe I should do some neuro when I'm off season. You can do neuro anytime. You can start it in the middle of a season and get better really fast, right? So Garrett was in AA. He had 5 pitches, but he's only using really 2 of them, maybe 3 of them consistently. And only 2 of them were major league ready, right? His fastball was at 92. That was his best pitch, even though it wasn't super fast for, you want it to be faster. And then his changeup was really good. Okay. So his fastball went up 4 miles an hour in 10 weeks. So it went up to 96, and he developed all 5 of his pitches. Remember, you're a sponge when you do neuro. All of a sudden you're like, oh, here's how my pitches are supposed to come. Like, you can go to Rapsodo before and after. And not just pitchers, hitters too. And you can see every single stat get better, right? Because I've talked about OPS and I've talked about ERA, and everyone's like, well, there's thousands of factors with stats like that. But you can't deny going into a Rapsodo, seeing what your spin rate is and your horizontal and vertical break, and then 10 weeks later, it's all better. The velo's better. You've developed all of your pitches, and same with hitters, right? Exit velo goes up, barrel percentage goes up, hard hit percentage goes up, all this stuff, you just measure it. So this is stuff that we can actually measurable, right? So here, he developed 5 pitches. Anyway, obviously you guess the rest. He dominated AA. This mid-season. So it's this time last year, he starts doing neuro. Mid-season, he dominates AA. They take him up to AAA. He dominates AAA. They take him up to the big leagues. He has the greatest starting pitching debut in Detroit Tigers history because he has 5 pitches now.
Doing these exercises with neuro has sharpened up all the pitches in my repertoire. Yeah, since neuro, the pitches have all gotten better. My curveball, I'm able to backdoor it to a lefty. I have a bit more trust with the location. I didn't have a slider to start the year, and my slider's become one of my best pitches. I use it more than my changeup right now, and my changeup was always my best off-speed pitch. It's like easier on my mind knowing that I don't have to be perfect with 2, maybe 2.5 pitches. I've got 5 pitches now that I can trust. I can go to whenever I want to.
All right. And then would love for you guys to hear this. All you have to do is go to my website and put /Marcus. These are our sessions, right? We're talking, because a lot of this stuff is like, hey, can you just tell everyone how this helped you, right? And so these are testimonials. But here Marcus is in session with me talking about like,
for the first time in my life, threw a proper curveball last week.
You know, and he's just talking. It's really fun to watch. So yeah, neuroskillscoach.com is my website, and /Marcus, totally worth watching. It's like less than 5 minutes. It's 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Anyway, but we don't really have time because we have a lot of questions. First, I want to show you kind of what drills look like, and then I want to answer a bunch of questions. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, I told you that, you know, just so you know, these drills you can do in your office, in your hotel room during the playoffs. You can do them anywhere, right? So I have a lot of players doing this in their hotel rooms during the season. Okay, and the barrel drill. First of all, we need to know where this barrel is so you can always hit it off the barrel, right? I told you that the bat neurologically is an extension of your body, right? So you should never be jamming it here or hitting it off the end of the bat. You should always be barreling because you should know it, just like you know your arm. This is a limb of the body according to your brain. So what am I talking about? If someone's going to throw 105 miles an hour at me, I'm going to be able to catch every single one of these pitches with my hand. How do I know that? Well, first of all, I do have a player that throws 105, but the other reason is because think about when people are throwing 105, the catcher catches all of them, right? He's not going to miss it by a foot and be like, whoops. And it's the same with when me, I'm not going to miss it by a foot and be like, whoops, couldn't get that pitch, right? Like you're going to be able to stop everyone with the palm of your hand. So why aren't you stopping every single one with the barrel of your bat, right? Boom, hit it on the barrel. That's why Nick Gonzalez and that's why Andrew Major just hit 5 home runs in one day the other day. Okay. So barrel. Okay. So we have a barrel drill. We have a strike zone drill. I'm just giving you, like, obviously these drills are proprietary. This is how I feed my family, but I'm showing you stuff. So there's a strike zone drill where you actually learn that strike zone in front of you and you learn how the pitch. So first we have to imprint this stuff into our brain, right? So we're not going to be up there going, all right, here comes a curveball, right? Like that's not realistic. In fact, if you do think that, you're probably going to strike out. Remember when Trevor Bauer was throwing, he was like, okay, here comes a curveball, right? And no one could hit it. He was doing that because he was all upset with the Astros when they cheated that one season, right? And so he's like, here's a curveball. No one can hit it because you can't think and hit, right? And that should be every sport, right? You should be in the flow state. You shouldn't be in the analytical state, you know, in the middle of a game. Okay. So anyway, with the strike zone drill, not only are we learning the strike zone really well, we're learning impulse control, not swinging at bad pitches, working the count, the 2-strike approach, all the stuff from the comfort of your hotel room or bedroom or office or wherever you are, right? So now you're trusting your subconscious mind, right? Your subconscious mind picks up on 8 million cues per second. 8 million, right? That's where you want to be. You don't want to be in your conscious mind, which only can hold on to a handful of things. And if I am in my conscious mind and I'm thinking, all right, this guy has a slider and he has a changeup, and like if I'm thinking about all this, my impulse control is going to be worse and I'm going to swing at bad pitches. So I have to be in the flow state. When you're doing these drills, half hour a day, Monday through Friday, you are in the flow state. You're actually teaching yourself to just jump into the flow state at any point. And so you can just jump into the flow state because you're practicing it every day. And you're letting your subconscious mind dictate what I've already imprinted into my brain, which is this pitcher has 5 pitches. He locates here. He likes to throw this in this count. Anyway, it's all in my. And so you have to imprint it in a way that your subconscious mind understands it. And so that's part of the secret sauce. With paper and pen, we imprint it into the subconscious mind. And then we infuse it with drills like this, okay? Where we let the subconscious mind dictate. Again, I'm not thinking of a curveball or whatever. I just let my subconscious mind have that pitcher throw a pitch. And as it releases from his hand, I can see that it's a slider. And this happens in real life. The more you do this, the more you do start to see, as the pitcher releases it, you see it's a slider. And you start to see the path of that slider. And you've been doing the barrel drill too. And you are, boom, hitting that slider exactly where you wanted to hit it, okay? So that's how it works. like this is big. Like, just so you guys know, this is what people are doing. Drew Brees, everyone knows who Drew Brees is. He's a quarterback, and he's all by himself in a stadium throwing passes, right? So he's like throwing to nobody. Lights are off, and he's running plays. He's huddling. He's going through a game basically. But someone sees him and is like, "What's Drew Brees doing?" He films him. He posts on Twitter, and he's like, "What's wrong with Drew Brees?" or whatever he says, right? He makes fun of him. Drew Brees tweets back and says, "If you don't know what I'm doing, you're already behind." In other words, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, doesn't matter who, if you want to be elite, you have to go through the game before it happens multiple times, right? So are you doing that? Are any of your guys doing that? I hope so, but how realistic is it? Are you doing it to the point where your subconscious mind is dictating it and you've gotten it imprinted into your mind and infused? Okay, so anyway, just so you know, this program works. That's why Nick Gonzalez was National Player of the Year. That's why Josh Bell just won a Silver Slugger. That's why Alex Nedeljkovic led the NHL in 4 different categories. Nick Gonzalez led the D1 NCAA in 5 different categories. They're doing this stuff, and that's, if they're not doing it, they're already behind. That was Drew Brees. So anyway, I think that's what you needed to see. Obviously, I've got soccer drills, I've got hockey drills, I've got golf drills. This is working great with some academy golfers. Great. Working great with soccer players, obviously. Just thinking of other sports. NFL, NHL, MLB. You saw basketball players talk about it. You figure out your shot. That kid that you saw, he led his conference in 3-point percentage. I mean, he was able to hit 40 free throws in a row. Like, this is stuff that people weren't able to do before, and now they've tapped into their subconscious mind, and they're just on fire. And I believe that's what you want. So I'm going to answer some questions we have here. Lots of questions. Cool. Thanks, guys. Okay, Alan, how long is each training, and how many trainings do you typically do in a year? So, right. So, I mean, it's as many trainings as someone wants to, but normally I do like a 12-week or a 10-week, what do I call it? Program, but like just kind of like you do 10 weeks or 12 weeks in a row, and you do certain drills, right? You knock them out a half hour a day. Now we're alternating drills, and we do it in a certain way that actually beefs up the brain. So that's part of the secret sauce too, how you do the drills, not just what you're doing, it's how you do it, right? And 30 minutes a day, Monday through Friday. I mean, seriously, it takes me 30 minutes to get ready for bed. So it's nothing, right? Are you going to miss brushing your teeth? Right? I hope not. Don't miss brushing your teeth. Don't miss doing your neuro and bringing your brain to a new level, right? So, so how long is each training? 30 minutes. And how many trainings do you typically do in a year? Well, you do that daily for about 10, 12 weeks, and then you do another round, right? And people take like some breaks between rounds, and but yeah, some guys are doing 3 or 4 rounds in a year. Okay. I have guys that have been doing this for a long time. Okay. Great question. Okay. Kaylee, thanks so much for doing these calls. This is great. Thank you, Kaylee. Are you able to give an example of a neuro test or assessment for volleyball? So I'm not really testing, I am beefing up. And so that's what it is. I'm not really providing the assessments. There are other companies that measure all this stuff, but with like baseball, and that's where I really started. And it's been so easy because everyone has access to get to a Rapsodo, measure their metrics beforehand, then measure their metrics after, and then they're like, it works. It works really well. And I've had people say, well, what about coaches? Aren't they getting them better? Yeah, but you see a nice like consistent pattern with coaches and coaching your whole career, and then all of a sudden you do neuro and there's just an incline, it goes straight up, right? And then you're like, okay, well, that's not a coincidence, because you're a sponge. Neuro's not an island. Neuro is a sponge. Like you are everything that your coaches give you, you're able to build off of, and you can finally figure it out and you understand. So I'm sorry, I don't have a assessment for volleyball, except that you can do, you can do velo and you can get a radar gun and see how fast you're spiking it, and that will go up. You could get, if you want to do a 40-yard dash. I have guys, just so you know, I have guys doing 40-yard dashes and they get better. So I had a guy do a combine and he ran a 4.7, and then he did neuro, and he hadn't started. So he did the combine, he did neuro, and 10 or 12 weeks later, he did another combine and he ran a 4.5. So cutting off 0.2 is insane. Also, a D1 swimmer who basically she was ranked 7th on her D1 team. She never had come in first in her whole life. She dominated, right? So she did neuro. She's had about 5 personal best records since doing neuro. She's come in consistently first on her team, sometimes second, but first or second for her team. She knocked off over 7 seconds, almost 8 seconds from one of her events. So in swimming, when you knock off 8 seconds from an event, do you know how crazy that is? And people thought, you can't break the swim code, but neuro has been able to break the swim code. It's been able to break I have not found a sport that this doesn't work for. So it will work for volleyball. You will have a faster spike. You will get into the right placement on the court. You will run faster. You will get to that ball that split second faster. That's what hockey players always talk about. They know where the puck is coming. So think about volleyball. You know where the ball is coming. And also they get to that puck a split second faster than the other guys. So I know that, on your team, you're not competing to get to that ball before your teammates, but getting to that ball that split second faster so you can volley it back and you're into the right spot and your teammate can move on to it, right? So yeah, I mean, it definitely will help volleyball. Valerie, you mentioned virtual being a negative thing for kids' eyes. You tell me exactly what exactly it does negatively to their eyes. So there's a lot of research with blurred distance vision, eye strain. I do have this research here. I can kind of pull it up. Let me see if I can find it. But especially the virtual reality, but even just extended screen time happens. And why is there so much of this type of training today? Because people want to make money. Do you trust someone who actually has a background in neuro and actually has been in the clinic doing neuro? Or do you trust someone who has some machines and they're trying to sell you a machine and they're like, oh, this will help your neuro skills, right? I mean, that's what they do. It's just technology. And people are like, oh, it's $1 million. It must be great. But really, is it, do you want something that also the virtual reality only targets about 60% of your brain, whereas obviously we're using the whole brain in my program, and the results just speak for itself. But I don't have it up. Let me see if I can find it. I have just too many questions to answer, but there's legit research. If you text Lance or whatever, I can get you that research for you so you can see how virtual reality does damage the eyes. Cause eye damage, like it's in the research, and also blurred distance vision. But the blurred distance vision is just screen in general. And so with my program, yeah, you do need to get on a screen to see, what the pros are doing and start putting those patterns into your subconscious mind. But you don't need to put on a virtual reality set and stuff, right? And you can always, when you get on your computer, you can always wear your blue light glasses and protect your eyes, right? I just, first impression, I'm trying not to wear my blue light glasses. Okay, Jose, I coach a travel program in California. Would like to discuss this more with the facility that runs the program. I'll email you by the weekend. Thanks, Jose. Awesome. Henry, have you had success with basketball? Yes, with the neuro program you offer. And would my son be too young at 8 years old? Well, these 9-year-olds are doing phenomenal. So I just started, yeah. So I think 8 years old, you'd be fine. I work with my daughter. She does gymnastics. She's 6 years old and she gets a lot from neuro. She does it every day. But I have not worked with an 8-year-old before. So I've worked with 6-year-olds. I've worked with 9-year-olds. And I've worked with a lot of young basketball players that have had a lot of success. So that's my answer. Thanks. All right, so that's Henry. And then Renee, you talk about this working for athletes, but what about coaches? Yes, I've worked with pro coaches and it helped quite a bit. I think it would help us as much as the kids. Yes. Have you worked with coaches? Yeah. So I had a manager in the Pittsburgh Pirates organization who every year he was a 500 manager, and then he did neuro, and then he took his team to the championship series. So it helped quite a bit. He gave me a whole testimonial on it. I've worked with other coaches as well. It definitely works. You see the patterns. You know where to coach the kids. I mean, you know what to do. I mean, obviously this works great for coaches. All right. Dennis, can you please discuss the pricing models for both single athletes and group coach calls, please? All right. So single athlete. So here's the thing is we're on Area Scouts. This is the whole deal that you guys are getting. So basically I work with a major league athlete. If they're going to hire me for a year, it's $30,000. If they hire me for 12 weeks, it's $10,000. But that's, you know, he's in the NFL, he's in the NHL, and like, you know, you don't even know if your kid's going to stick with this sport, right? So we have this Area Scouts program where I work with groups, and you know, it's super. I want Lance to say it, but there's some deal going on where it's like normally $700 something, and now it's like $397 or something like that. It's incredibly. I mean, like, you know, neuro. I don't think you'll find a program this inexpensive anywhere in the world. The only thing is you need to sign up for Area Scouts, which is inexpensive as well, and Lance can tell you about that. But this program is just such a good deal. Like, you know, but let's get a group together and get them in. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. So one-on-one, I mean, my time is valuable. I'm working with a lot of pro athletes at the highest levels. And so how do I even afford with my time to have the price so low? We get a group together. That's what we do. And that's why this works so great with Area Scouts. All right. Great question. So Gunnar, I'm interested. I'll be reaching out to you this week about having my boys work with you. They're 15, 17-year-old and both play soccer. Awesome. Works great with soccer. I have a soccer group going right now. Jillian, my daughter plays softball and is just average, typically cannot hit the fast pitchers. Does neuro actually help them pick up fast pitches consistently? Yes. So processing speed goes up, everything slows down. You will like, and I'm not talking about like one person saying this. I mean, I can't tell you how many people have said it looks like a beach ball coming at me, right? I probably have it on video, people saying that too. Actually, I do. I know I do. Yes, it slows down. As long as she's consistent with the drills, that's the thing. Here's the thing about neuro. You give it 100%, you get 100% out of it. You'll get, it'll go beyond expectations. It'll be amazing. But you give it 50%. And then here's the thing about the brain. And I mentioned this a different week, and Lance was like, well, that's anything. But here it is. I put something 50% in, I'm half-hearted about it. My brain's going to be like, oh, Nathan's not really interested in this. Let's forget this even happened, right? And so it's not a good thing to do, you know, do anything half-heartedly. And that's what Lance was saying. Well, that's with anything, right? If I go into baseball or I go into basketball half-heartedly, not going to work for you're not going to maximize your full potential. So you got to go all in, but it's not like you can't miss a day. So I have a lot of people. I had a first rounder, not Nick, but another first rounder that Matt McLean. So his combined OPS for first 2 seasons at UCLA was in the 700s combined. So he was there in the 700s, and then he did neuro, and afterwards he had over 1,000 OPS. He was a first-round draft pick with the Cincinnati Reds. He, almost every week I talked to him, he was like, oh, I got 4 days in instead of 5. But he was consistently telling me that. So you can miss a day, but you have to be consistent. Consistency is key. I'm not saying miss a day every week. I'm just saying, like, don't stress over it, right? Don't miss Monday and be like, oh, I've ruined the whole week and now I'm not going to do it, right? Like, you just have to just get back on the horse Tuesday and just knock it out through Friday. Take the weekends off. Don't even think about it. You need that rest for your brain. It's just like repair, recovery, or going to the gym, right? So I think that's all. I appreciate everyone's time. Is Lance here? Well, any other questions? You can send them. If not, I think we're good. So I appreciate everyone's time. Everyone, hopefully Lance gets on here. Lance, here, let me text him because I think he wants to wrap up and say, here's how you contact us. And, you know, because obviously you're hearing all this stuff and you want to be able to, you know, get your team better. So I'm ready for you. I'm telling him. Okay. But yeah, let me just tell you one more time. This really helps teams. If you are a coach and you want to get your team better, reach out and we'll get everyone on area scouts and into this program for super cheap. It's game changing. If you want to go to my website, neuroskillscoach.com, you will see so many people, and the list goes on and on and on. All these people talking about what this really does, how this can change your game, because your brain controls everything you do. It's like, can this even be real? Well, think about it. Your brain controls everything you do. The greatest of all time in every single sport, it's always their brain, right? It's always the brain. Comes back to the brain in almost everything in sports. Okay. So I appreciate your time. Hopefully Lance will wrap this up. Lance, because I do have another call in 2 minutes. Lance, you there? Oh, sorry, I'm still on here. I'll post all contact info under the video and on Facebook. You can give them your direct email also. My direct email is neuroskillscoach@gmail.com, or you can just go on my website and contact me there, neuroskillscoach.com. Neuro is spelled Neuro, and skills coach, all one word, @gmail, or neuroskillscoach, all one word.com. Appreciate your time. Thanks for everyone for the questions, and I appreciate you joining me tonight here. And until next time, see you later.